Is a cheap 10 watt laser going to be any good? Well, keep watching to find out. Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of James Dean Designs. If you are new to the channel, love laser or CNC, make sure you hit that subscribe button down in the corner to get all the latest tips, tricks, tutorials and reviews. Now in today's episode we are looking at the Sculpfun S10. Now at the time of making this is one of, if not the cheapest complete 10 watt laser on the market, and I really wanted to see what it was capable of doing. So as we've just mentioned, the laser module is a 10 watt output, so that is pretty powerful, and we'll get on to what it can do shortly. Let's talk about the frame and setup itself though. This is all made of metal aluminium 2020 extrusion, so extremely light and portable. You can literally hang it on a wall when it is not being used. The work area is advertised as 410 by 400. However, when I measured it, it was slightly smaller, and I think it's 390 by 400. Not much of a difference, and still a decent sized work area given the footprint of it. Now the footprint of it is only 560 wide by 600 deep, so the ratio of work area to the size of the machine is actually really good. The X and Y axis are both belt driven by these NEMA 17 stepper motors. The Y axis has a bar going across joining both sides just to ensure that they run at the same rate continually. The X-axis is fitted with a linear rail. This ensures smooth motion whenever it is in operation, but more importantly, it's stable without any wobble to guarantee you have much cleaner results. The Z-axis on this is manual adjustment. There are two knobs at the back just to turn to lower or higher the laser up. Really easy to do and very fast to adjust. The control box is conveniently located at the front of the machine. Here you'll find the power ports, the USB ports and the on and off switch, and the wiring loom obviously connecting to all the motors, allowing everything to run and to drive. There are a few additional bits as well with this machine. As you can already see, we get an air assist nozzle that comes with the kit straight away, and an extra hose to connect this up to whatever you are using for your air assist, a little pump, a compressor, those type of things, but it automatically comes in the kit to get you up and running. And talking about up and running, assembly of this machine is very simple. It really doesn't take long to get it all together. The instructions are very clear, and it also talks you through every single step. The nuts and bolts for the machine are conveniently separated into packets for each step. So instead of just all being thrown into one box together, it breaks it down so you know exactly what nuts and bolts you are using for each step. My one bit of advice would be in regards to setup is get all the bolts into the corners loose first and then tighten them up once the frame is actually assembled. If you start tightening bolts up as you go round, it will get a little bit difficult to assemble. With it being an extremely budget-friendly 10 watt laser, there are one or two little things missing, such as limit switches. Now you normally find these on laser machines. There are holes pre-drilled into the frame to take these should you want to add them, but as I say, it's just something to bear in mind that those are missing. The control box does take them as well. I've had this apart and there are the ports to connect them, but ultimately you've got to go in through the side where the wiring loom goes in at the moment. There is no easy way to connect them without taking the casing off. It is GRBL based or Gerbil based as well, so ultimately what that means is you can run this in the most popular software such as Laser Gerbil or even Lightburn, which is my preference because you can do a lot more in it, but as I say, if you're looking for free options, it will run on Laser Gerbil as well. And because everything on the frame is so simple, it is very easy to expand as well. There is an expansion kit available for this, but ultimately it is just 2020 extrusion, so you could even consider it doing it yourself if you are comfortable with those type of DIY upgrades. So after building the machine, obviously the first thing to do is get stuck in with testing. Now I will be honest, I didn't get on great with this machine to begin with. After just one use, I started getting some error messages on screen. Ultimately, this was diagnosed as a faulty firmware on the control board. It turns out any machines produced before I think July 2022 have this common fault on them. Now what is interesting is this is not referenced anywhere on Sculpfun's site and they have no support for it. I randomly found a page listing newer firmware for this that was not related to Sculpfun. So that was a little bit odd. However, I followed the instructions, updated the firmware, and everything is now running fine. Obviously, if you're purchasing a machine now, it should come with much more stable firmware and you shouldn't have that issue. But obviously, that out the way, the first thing to do was get stuck in with some testing. And as usual, we start with some power scale tests. Ultimately, the reason for this test is judges how fast the machine can actually go and the type of quality you're going to get at different power settings. Now, this all went fairly smooth. It lists this machine as running up to 6,000 millimeters per minute. I took the settings higher than that, and you have to adjust the Gerbil settings to do this. But what I actually found was that it went up to about 7,000. Even though I tested it at 8,000, there was not much change after 7,000. So you can get a little bit higher speed out of this machine. But the main thing to see from these tests is the gradient was fairly consistent, progressing all the way up through the different speeds and feeds, which is just what we expect to see and gives us an idea of the working range of this machine. Next, we swapped over to some cutting tests. Now, I was pretty happy with this. At one pass, it was cutting at 100% at around 440 millimeters. Doing two passes, we got it up to 700 millimeters, again at 100% power. Now, what I would say is this is 3mm basswood, so that gives you an idea of the type of speed you can cut out if you're doing something like laser models. Obviously, at those type of speeds, you can cut fairly fast. So after doing those basic cutting and power and speed tests, I wanted to move on and actually see what it really was capable of. I started progressing through different thicknesses, 6, 8, 12, that type of thing. And well, I got up to 18 millimeters thick. And I was sure I could get this to cut in one single pass. Now, I really had to slow this down. I think it brought it down to about 25 or 30 millimeters per minute in order to cut through this. And it was also connected to a fairly powerful compressor output at about 25 psi. But ultimately, I cut through this 18mm softwood in one single pass, and it is actually a fairly clean cut as well. So I was really impressed with that. One of the reasons for this, because it has a fairly long focal distance on this, it aids with cutting deeper materials. So yeah, even though they really only advertise this cutting up to, I think it's maybe 6 or 12 mil, something like that, I actually got it cut in 18 mil and was super impressed. Then after this point, I really just started messing about to see what the machine could do. I tested it on a rusty object to see if it would fetch the rust off, and it genuinely did. It started to clean up the metal. After that, I put a piece of stainless steel on the bed, and again to see if it would engrave this. Now, I say engrave there, what I actually mean is mark the material. It's not powerful really enough to engrave stainless steel, but it does leave a permanent marking on it, which I was really impressed with, given that this is a little bit of scruffy stainless steel. So after I knew it could mark stainless steel, I put a stainless steel hip flask on the bed. Now, I've seen some things on YouTube about getting different colours out of the stainless steel, and I thought I would give it a go, and lo and behold, that is exactly what I got. Now, the results are slightly skewed because of the curvature of the hip flask, but ultimately you can technically colour in on stainless steel using this diode laser. I flipped it over and ultimately put my logo on the front of it, so now I have a branded hip flask. After that, I dropped a leather wallet on it and engraved my logo into that. As you can see, I just like to put my logo on as many things as possible. Now, something like leather is quite soft and will engrave easily, but ultimately it gave a very crisp finish. I then went on to engrave a night lamp out of a scrap piece of plexiglass. Now, a diode laser will not typically engrave clear materials. You have to apply a coating to the top, then when you wash it off, you are left with these lovely clean engravings in the top of the plexiglass. And after that, I kind of went full circle back to the thinner materials that I originally started cutting out and did this nice calendar that could easily be rotated and changed obviously throughout the year, as you would expect from a calendar. So having gone full circle and spent about 15 to 20 hours playing and testing with this machine, I can now comfortably give a review of it. Well, I wasn't expecting much from it given the price point. Coming in at under £350 for a 10-watt setup, I thought it was going to be disappointing, but I hold my hands up. This has exceeded every single expectation. It cuts deeper than expected, it runs faster than expected, and the whole setup has been much easier than I thought it would be, with everything running super smooth. There was the issue with the firmware at the beginning. Obviously, if you're purchasing one now, you will not have that issue because you'll be getting a newer machine with the correct firmware installed. So don't worry about that part. But as I say, super excited that I actually tested this and thankful that I did so, and I have no doubt that when I give it away to one of my patrons that they're going to have tons of fun with this machine as well. If you are thinking of buying one, then there is a link in the description area below from Geek Buying, the company that sent me this machine, so do go and check it out. That is everything for today's episode. Thank you very much for watching. Final thanks as always goes to my patrons. If you want to get involved, one-to-one help, free giveaways with machines like this, check out the link in the description area below. I will see you all on the next episode.